This content is brought to you by Huawei. VAY's technology helps predict risks for injuries and disorders, gives you feedback for effective treatments and exercises, and promotes physical activity. At the helm of it all is Joel Roos, a former athlete who noticed the severe lack of guidance amateur fitness enthusiasts get online. Enjoy this video interview directly from MWC in Barcelona. So welcome, Joel. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I'm very excited to get to know you better, get to know VAY better. And let's get first started. You know, investors are most interested in the person, the people behind every team. Maybe you can give us a quick introduction on who you are.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Absolutely. I'm Joel. I'm turning 28, I think, in 2 days.
Okay, great.
I come from the region of Zurich, so originally from Rapperswil on the other side of the lake. I turned after my kind of thesis or project at high school. I turned to mechanical engineering because it was really fascinating me how I could build something from the ground up. So later when I got into robotics and computer vision, it was a very clear path to me where it's going. So also the first project was directly tied to sports.
Yes.
And this one is again, I guess we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So I used to play volleyball on a professional level in Switzerland for quite some time. And with VAY, where I act as a CEO, I'm now combining two passions and building, just like I am, an interdisciplinary team.
Tell me a little bit about your background. I mean, to get into computer vision and all of these kind of sciencey topics, how did you get into this?
Good one. I always had many interests, and or at least earlier in my life, I had some problems sometimes to take the big decisions. So, for example, for my studies, it was a long time on the balance. Should I go for an economic route with business administration or similar, or should I go for the engineering? But in the end, the engineering seemed to me more open to still shift into a more business-oriented role afterwards, and it was also more fascinating to me because you learn really to get to the bottom of things and how things work, and I guess that was always really fascinating to me.
I mean, you had so many choices of what you can do as a career, and you decided to do your own company, which is probably the toughest one. I mean, on the side of having my own company, and I know what it means, beyond the innovation you want to bring to the world. What motivated you to start your own company?
Well, I always liked to challenge myself, so yes. I think I never shied away from a challenge, but that wasn't the main reason, of course. So after my studies and already having worked directly in one startup and closely during studies with another one, I was fascinated by the culture that one can build and how lean startups work towards a common goal. So that was already something that I was drawn to. But in the end, it was I was still playing professional at that time, right? Yes. And I think it was a problem that came to me pretty much exactly at that time of most people not like me having this whole stuff of an athletics coach plus then a gym coach plus a nutrition coach who were watching me all day, every day. But people came to me asking me for advice, and I didn't really feel comfortable giving it to them because, first of all, I only knew how it works for me, right? Not for other people. I haven't properly coached except for some volleyball up until then. But I wanted to help those people nonetheless. But I always said, well, I would need to spend at least a bit of time with you because fitness is a very personalized thing. It's right. Very different for every single person. So I think I really saw the problem at that time, and I had already the technology, or at least the very basics to it, to potentially solve that problem.
Right. Very good. I mean, that's a very nice segue into your startup. So maybe let's just get started, so everybody understands what VAY, right? Is that correct? VAY.
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us quickly what VAY is and what you guys do.
I mean, the big goal is really to build this kind of life coach that accompanies you in most of your situations. It really gathers a lot of data from what you do and tailors your fitness journey, but could also be a patient journey at some point, and really tailors that to your exact needs and see you as a person and not like a generic data point. Right now we're super focused on strength training, so that goes from bodyweight exercises to weighted exercises to yoga and Pilates and similar, but also stretching. So we have built this vision system that basically uses an everyday camera, really what you can find in smartphones or a laptop, and it analyzes your movements in real time. So first it kind of digitizes the human body, so it creates this computer model that is usually seen, but that's really only when it starts. So it's extremely difficult then to go from that computer model to a robust recognition and analysis of the motion patterns that a human can do. And then there's very different human beings, very different body types, fitness levels. So you also want to kind of have a customized variation for every person. We are detecting mistakes. We are coaching from a motivation standpoint. So that's also something that we do. And very important, because I think there's still sometimes a notion that we go about this in a B2C model, so we go directly to the end consumer. That's not true anymore. We launched the VAY Fitness Coach on the App and Play Store, I think around 2 years ago. It was very nice. We closely beat Kaya to be the first ones who would launch such a product with such a technology. But now we're focused solely on the core technology and integrate that into other connected fitness products as well as digital therapeutics products. So we are a technology provider in a B2B software as a service model.
You know, in the last, let's say, couple of years, maybe since you launched the app or even before, what was, you know, from a technical perspective, the biggest challenge you have faced in developing?
I guess there's always so many challenges around this technology. I mean, we kind of took something that was only applied so far in research, pretty much, and tried to bridge this gap to the industry to make it accessible for the end user. And that's the main question, is around how do you bring this computer vision technology to be fully real time, to build a user experience around it, but also really to make it work in a non-optimal environment. Because, well, research data sets are nice and everything, but very often we would also get asked, how well do you do on this open source data set? And this is not the question you want to ask. You want to know, will those guys make it work for my specific use case? And for all the different scenarios people will go about it in a home setting.
I mean, eventually, with all of this data, you want to improve someone's life, whether it is in fitness or something else. How are you tracking this? Like, how are you making sure that, you know, the end user is actually, you know, improving their life, their fitness, their bodies?
Well, that's still ongoing, I'd say. So we have the technology ready. We're also integrating it into various products that will give us those user insights finally, and will let us combine the data we're collecting through the vision system with other data around sleep, around maybe the cardio exercises that they do, plus their general input. So there's still a lot of questions around the user experience, but we know from, like, when we go out and show it to people and they work out with it, and especially if it's somebody who's actually not so, or doesn't know so well about his own body, and you see him work out with that thing, and sometimes it's even people who say they've been working out quite a lot with other digital fitness products, and they just do their exercises plain wrong in the beginning. Right. And then you watch them, and maybe just because the user experience isn't always so nice just yet, if they do a mistake, it's going to tell them over and over and over again until they are able to correct it. So when you see your technology having that impact on people, to actually teach them something, to actually coach them to achieve better form, or just in general work out better or more sustainable, that's really what keeps us going.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to do is, like, you know, go down the lane of, like, where could this go, and, like, what could this be, or where would you like this to be in, let's say, 10 years from now? And most people think in, like, 1-2 year terms. Us as entrepreneurs, I believe we have to think a little bit longer term. I just recently watched a video by Jean-Claude Pivot, who thinks in eternity times. So that's a very different type of thinking. But maybe you can tell me what are your thoughts of like where could your company be in a decade from now?
So from a product perspective, we have a very clear goal. So right now, I mean, everything's kind of AI today, but still the artificial intelligence we're using, the computer vision algorithms, it's kind of limited. And there's a lot of, our input in the end behind it. In the end, we really want to build this artificial coaching intelligence that naturally interacts with the user, that gets to know the user or the trainee on a personal level, and that is kind of like a companion for his everyday life, helping him to, live a healthier and happier life in the end.
Mm-hmm. And like from a market perspective, like, I'm sure you're also tracking some competitors. Where could this be market-wise? Maybe if you have some numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the connected fitness market that obviously got a huge boom during the last 15, 16 months since the pandemic hit.
Even I downloaded Strava. So
yes, see, a lot of people did. So this is growing quite a lot, and the trends say that it will continue to grow by over 30% over the next 5 years into a $40+ billion market opportunity, and this is obviously huge for us. So within the connected fitness space, we're working with quite a lot of the most important companies already, and it seems like all of them individually evaluated us to be the top player for their motion analysis efforts. And all of the players are also quite sold that this will be the next big leap in the user experience for them. So I think we have a pretty good chance to capture that space. And right now, everybody is eager. Everybody feels a certain urgency, but I can tell you this is a highly competitive market. So when one of our big clients will go live with this and take this leap in the user experience of having a natural interaction with their users, getting to know more about them, having really a personalized experience, the others will have to follow, and they will be all of a sudden it will be very urgent. And I hope all of them will continue working with us. New ones will start working with us, and I think we have a pretty good position right now to capture the space within the connected fitness market. That being said, our goals are a bit bigger, right? So we are already starting to work towards more the regulatory space. So we're working already with digital therapeutics companies. We're working with rehabilitation companies. We see it at some point also be a diagnostic device based on different assessment trainings. And those markets are yet a bit more unclear because, first of all, it's not like the connected fitness space, which is just a global market and more or less works everywhere the same. At least you can distribute it wherever you want. But every country has its own regulations, so there's a lot of questions around how will those markets evolve, and there's still so much legal work to do that has to pass. So there are laws that need to get passed until you can actually see a software product as a medical device product, especially artificial intelligence. So currently we're working with a few European companies, and they always say, well, for us to keep our regulations or our certificates, you can't change the AI. And in the end, you want your AI to evolve, right?
Right.
But that's not possible at the moment.
So tell me, what has the next 6 to 12 months in store for you? What are your milestones?
For sure, within the next 6 months, we know already that a few awesome products will launch. So we're hoping to hit or have our technology in the hands of millions of users really by the end of this year. And this will be huge. This will be decisive. This will change a market that has been quite more of the same for quite a long time. This will also give the user a very different perspective on how he will do fitness in the future. We are currently, and will continue to do so over the next 6 months for sure, 12 months for sure as well, grow our team quite substantially. So in this year, I think we've added 1 team member every month on average. I think we will for sure continue to do so so until the end of the year. And from a money perspective, we will hopefully do another round also towards the end of the year. We believe we can, from the software as a service metrics, hit some quite important goals until then, because in the end, one of our big partners going live will be a huge boost in, well, our valuation, our monthly recurring revenue.
Sure.
We also not only hire the team member every month, for the first 5 months, I believe we always doubled our monthly recurring revenue. So,
right.
but we started with 0 in January. So
okay.
that's also important to say. But we think we can hit 100,000 in monthly recurring by the end of this year already.
Well, that gives you a nice kind of like a burn rate that you can use for like a runway that is good. I mean,
yeah. Also because we have built our team up in a very lean way, and we also found people who definitely have the skills to go work in another company for quite a higher salary, but decided, hey, this is something I truly believe in, so
right.
I want to take a big cut of my salary also in stocks. We were actually quite cash flow positive in a few months this year.
Okay, so that's good. Tell me about past fundraising. I mean, like you have some prestigious investors, if I remember correctly. So maybe you can share some ideas about who is on your team and especially investors. And I also know you have some special advisors who have sold companies in the past.
So really the first investor that truly believed in our cause was the team of Dart Labs, kind of a micro venture capitalist.
Yeah, Ariana is a great person.
Absolutely, yeah. So Sophie, Ariana,
yes.
They believed in us as a team and the technology and in the future benefit this will have for, well, people,
yes,
human beings. So they invested, I think, pretty much a year ago. So they also introduced us as part of the tech due diligence to Alex Illich,
yes.
who I believe is the person you meant when you said sold the company. He started kind of like a mentor, but also decided to invest into VAY from a money perspective. But most of all, he really helped us like shape where this is going. Obviously, he has a great experience to build up computer vision teams and how to pursue this technology in a very industry relevant way. So also what I was saying around, well, how do you really tailor it to your use case in the end?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very cool. I mean, let's talk a little bit more about the revenue model and the business model. I think that for investors who want to listen to this, they definitely want to know how you make your money. You said like if you have a SaaS model, you have a monthly recurring revenue. What are you charging for?
So since the beginning of the year, when we really went live with this product, let's say this B2B software as a service product, we decided to go for a very lower hurdle entry offer. Mm-hmm. So we know that it takes a tech team to integrate our SDKs into the other products. So we're highly automating this. So by now we're in like 1 day for the basic setup, but then it still takes 2 weeks because you want to build a basic user experience around it. We're also helping there, so 2 weeks to first user tests, and then we believe the fastest one we had so far was 3 months to market. So right. That's pretty quick. For bigger clients, it definitely takes 6 months. With some, we will be working 10 months, I believe, when they will go live towards the end of the year. But this entry offer for the first 3 months, 7.5 thousand euros, that's kind of like low hurdle for something that you want to explore, that you're maybe not fully sold on, but where you see a huge potential. So we didn't have much conversion difficulties around that. And then it's really after those 3 months, you have already spent quite a lot of engineering resources. You developed a liking to the product. Your user or the users you did your first tests with took a liking to the product. But we continue Until our clients go live, we continue on a very low base fee of 3,000 a month. And then, well, when they go live, when they go commercial, they are out of the non-commercial licenses, what we call it, for the time of integration and also sometimes co-development, which then can also be separately paid in a non-recurring agreement. But when they go live, the base fee will go up, plus there's always a variable fee that's kind of adapted to the business model of our clients. So we don't like to call it revenue share, but usually it is in the end. But we offer both usage-based or user-based models for the commercial license.
That's only after they're integrated. So
that's only when they go live, right? So either their classical fitness app, where they have a freemium model, and every premium user is, I'm just throwing out some numbers, paying 10 euros a month for his subscription. It's possible that we get a small cut of every premium user, because those are also the guys who are getting access to the feature first. It's also possible that they want to incentivize us even more to build an amazing computer vision technology for them, and they do a usage-based model, so based on how well it resonates with those users.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem of Switzerland. I mean, I think it's always very fascinating to hear, how people see it through different eyes. So maybe just like very quickly, how do you see the Swiss startup ecosystem as you perceive it in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, I guess the Swiss ecosystem is slowly getting there, I'd say. I believe there's much too high risk averseness. So that's, I guess, something that's deep in the Swiss culture as well. But we had tried to sell a vision for quite some time. And we also see US startups right now copying our vision and raising millions very early on. We were there 2.5 years ago, and very few actually, would go for the vision. Everybody was like, this will be awesome, but this will need still some tech development. This will need a lot of business development. You will need to find your niche. I first want to see revenue. And then it turned from, I want to see revenue, I want to see recurring revenue. Yeah, the risk averseness certainly doesn't help Swiss startups, especially in the software and AI sector, to build up a strong team early on, because you really need to fight. You need to get your product out there, and that's a hard journey, tough journey. But after that, really, if you still manage to build up the team, I think the ecosystem starts to take care of you. So there's a lot of awesome partner programs, and we're in the Venture Kick, Venturelab. We had now amazing opportunities on a scale-up industry boot camp, for example, as well as now here in Barcelona. So it starts to pick up, but in the very beginning, I think, but that's also changing right now. I know there's a lot of great initiatives out there helping and targeting even earlier stage companies. So I think that will be very important for Switzerland, to bring in more entrepreneurs, to help them not quit after 2 years just because it gets very frustrating and you're still not there, and you feel like you should be by now because you've been working on your baby for more than 2 years, built up a team, have a product almost ready. But I think if we can do more even on an early stage, I think afterwards we're already quite well set up in Switzerland.
Right. And like when you look specifically at the investors, you would hope, if I understood correctly, like that they, deploy more money into early stage quicker, or how do you understand that?
I don't want to tell them what to do, right? But it's certainly true that, funding rounds in an early stage are substantially smaller than in other regions of the world.
At lower valuations.
At lower valuations, of course, and also on different levels of traction that they want you to have. I can mostly speak to our sector, so software and AI. I know in other fields there's more money deployed quite sooner, but yeah, I think it's a problem that really early stage capital isn't very well accessible.
Right.
And there's this risk averseness, and that's not just from VCs, but even from business angels. So if you start into due diligence with quite a lot of business angels that you met at some club, and then in the end they are like, well, I don't know, it seems a bit early for me. Maybe I'll get back to you on your Series A. And you ask them, well, how much capital could you deploy? And it's like 20,000. That's a problem.
Right.
You don't need your 20,000 in your Series A. You need them right now. And if somebody who's positioning himself as a professional business angel and doesn't get that and doesn't want to take a bet on 20,000, then he's wasting a lot of your time also.
Sure. Very good point. Let's say if you have, there's one thing for improvement in the next, let's say 5 years in the ecosystem, do you have anything specific you would want to see?
I think I don't want to pass on the question, but I think I still need also to learn a lot around the whole ecosystem and how things work. So I think I'll have a very nice retrospective after really closing out the round that we started and have already half filled. Maybe I've done a Series A, get to know more players. It's kind of also fragmented. I think there's a lot, but there's different players in the field. So once I know them better, I think I also will want to actively take action and change or control, not control, but help shaping this ecosystem out.
Well, that would have been my next question. Like, how are you planning to do that, or how are you planning on giving back to the community?
Well, as long as I'll be with VAY, I guess, from the past few months and years, I won't have too much time to do it, right?
Yes.
But I think at some point adventures come to an end, and that will be also the point where I will want quite similar. So I'm honestly quite fascinated by what our investor and advisor Alex does. So having sold his company, then went back to the ecosystem to really change where he believes change needs to happen. So I do hope that will at some day will be my route as well.
Very good. I mean, the next topic that I think is very fascinating and has been, on my mind for the last couple of months for sure, and I think it's very interesting to hear different perspectives with various founders, is about like productivity and mental health. I think it's very often not talked about enough. And you also just said like you're very busy with your own company, which is already like, is the direction of the mental health question. But maybe you can quickly tell us a little bit, how are you seeing like, your mental health, and how are you making sure you're staying also healthy, not just on your fitness level, but also on a mental level?
Well, this is probably just everybody says, but it really is true. I mean, as long as you love to do what you do every day, it doesn't properly feel like work.
Right.
And often my friends who would go for a corporate route, they don't understand that. Like they have their jobs, and their job pretty much ends at 5 or 5:30 or whatever, and mine just doesn't. And that's not because, well, it's also sometimes because I just have to finish something, or there's had a busy day and mails got stuck, but it's also because I'm honestly interested to do it.
Right.
And I sometimes prefer it over, I don't know, going outside, having a beer, whatever, because I want to learn. I want to help the team, because in the end, we also have an amazing team who work really hard, who work for the cause. I always want to be there. So if anybody works until 10, I better make sure I work until 10 as well. I want to show that form of commitment.
Right. But maybe you have some tips, I'm sure you also have to turn off some once in a while. So how are you managing this balance, or some people call it integration of work and life?
So I'm a very active person, and if I can choose of sleeping a lot longer to like recharge my batteries, I found better ways to do that. So that's either sports, it can be an adventure on the weekend. I love in the summer especially, I love festivals. I think I'm kind of a sucker for positive energy, and I think that's really where you where you find that people just letting loose, having a good time together, positive vibes all around. That's how I can recharge my batteries.
And like, do you have some like productivity tools or like productivity tips? Like, I mean, I can just talk from my perspective. Sometimes you just need, like to relax, or you need to have like, you have like your things on your laptop. They say like, this is really helpful to me. Like, you have like some insights and like, what helps you, to stay focused or to stay, productive, or not burned out, like in this direction.
I wouldn't know of specific tools right now that properly help me. I think it's all around being well organized, knowing what's on your plate. So, and it is tricky sometimes, and that are the times where maybe it helps to not just run faster, but run a bit more smarter. Yes. So take a step back, like get your organization up again, not lose yourself in running faster, but really set good priorities, and also be able to let go of some of the lower priorities at that point in time. Pick them up later.
Okay, so what's your favorite book and why?
I love the Millennium Trilogy. That's actually 3, and just because every book turns kind of a different way. So it's the Millennium Trilogy is of Stieg Larsson. It's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is the first book, and is the movie in the cinema.
Okay.
And it draws you in as like kind of a crime thriller, but turns into this amazing interwoven state conspiracy in the end. For
your startup, do you want an exit or an IPO, and why?
I'll tell you what we tell all of our investors, and they hate to hear it. No, ours, lucky for us, ours don't so far. We don't have a clear exit strategy. So we, as founders, we set out to build a healthy and sustainable company, and exit options will come.
What is a successful entrepreneur for you?
I think somebody who can bring in great people who love to work for the cause, plus the company, plus the other people in the team, plus in the end for that entrepreneur.
No financial.
On a personal level, I don't
sure.
Put success and money on the same.
Okay.
It's not the same for me.
If you think of one reason your startup could fail, what would it be?
I think if we're losing focus too soon. So our technology, like if you talk to 100 people, everybody will have another idea, he tells you. And so just as an example, if an investor is into golf, and he might want you to build out your technology for golf, and you have to weigh in. Yes, golf is an attractive case, by the way, but do you want to go down that route, or is it just a deviation from your focus? I think focus is extremely key for us as a company right now.
Now back to the idea of success. What is success in life for you?
Really love what you do. Love what you do. If the border between work and non-work starts to like fade because you love what you do in work, then I think you're in a good position in your life.
Very cool. And the last one, what is the best advice you have ever received or that you can give over to the next generation?
One that I keep very close to me is, and that I can certainly pass on with good conscience as well, is let people talk. Like, everybody tries to give you advice, let it sink in, take what resonates well with you, but you don't have to listen to everything people tell you. And you tend to do, because you meet amazing people along the way, you meet very intelligent people, but in the end it's super crucial that you find your own way, your own style. You don't want to copy anybody, really.
Right. Good, Joel. Thank you so much. It was very, very interesting. I appreciate your time and your insights, and I wish you much success in your own definition. And I'm excited to see where your journey brings you.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.